Welcome to the podcast. I'm Rosa Coelho, your host, lifestyle entrepreneur, health coach, and speaker. I've gone from being in complete overwhelm, burning the candle at both ends, and watching my health, relationships, and business suffer, to creating a life with more joy, ease, and abundance. If you're ready to let go of the overwhelm, reclaim your health, and push past your comfort zone so that you can unleash your next level of success to create a greater impact, then sit back as we delve into conversations, as well as bring on guests to share with you tools, knowledge, and real action steps to get you there. Listen in, because you never know when you may hear something that changes everything. Oh, this week's episode was so wonderful. I have been looking for someone to speak to about this topic for so long. So I was so excited to become connected with Rowena List. Rowena List is a well sought after professional organizer. She has over 25 years of experience. She's appeared on several media outlets, including Global News and Breakfast TV. She offers customized solutions for her clients and their unique needs. She has an incredible attention to detail, and you'll see through this interview that she has such a supportive and kind nature. I absolutely loved this topic. I love how we connected to your physical health. There are so many golden nuggets in this. This is a high value episode. I'm so excited for you to listen in. Hi, Rowena. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rosa. Happy to be on here.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled. We were having a little chat before, and I was laughing, saying to you that even when I went onto your website, I felt instantly like relaxed. My chaotic world felt better.
Good. It's working.
Yeah, it really is. So thank you so much. I'm excited for the value that we're going to put out there today, because I truly believe this is a topic that is needed. So your website is called gettingittogether.ca. CA. I love it. I always feel so proud when people put CA. little Canadian touch. Let's start off with your story. I'd love to hear a bit about your journey. Like, how did you get into this space, and like for yourself, and when did you see it as like, oh, this is something I can actually do? Like, other people need this help.
Well, the thing is that I think I was born organized, but the good news is that it is a skill that you can learn. But I was always organized as a kid. And when I was in Girl Guides and we went camping, I got an award for having the most organized campsite.
I love it.
They didn't have a badge for it, but they gave me a pencil and a notepad, which I coveted for years and years. And then I was in the direct selling profession for decades, and I was doing all the training and the recruiting and getting people started. And I kept thinking, there's something that's missing with my team members and their team members as to why are they not as productive, or why are they not as successful. And with further investigation, I found out that people were so disorganized at home. They would start this profession as maybe a part-time gig around taking care of their kids and working full time and trying to get to yoga. And then you go to their home and you can't find a pen. If the client calls them, they have no idea where the client card is. The dog's eaten the piece of paper of the number that they're supposed to call. So I started getting all of these people organized in their home office. And that's where it started. And then they would say, well, can you do my closet? And can you do my garage? And so eventually it was time I started by creating a CD, an audio CD. And then people said to me, well, do you have a website? And that's when websites were, certainly not as popular as they are now. And they were a lot harder to make than they are now.
They were, yeah.
So I had the CD first, then I created a website and a company and so forth. So that's been several decades as well. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that story. I love that you were born that way. Were you from a family that was very organized, or do you think there was just something within you that just felt more, did you feel more calm organized as a child, or it was just something you found really interesting?
Well, what's interesting is my dad was very disciplined and he kept
Mm.
his shirts nice and neat and stacked and his shoes polished. My mom came from a family in England where they had an acre and her dad had stuff everywhere on that acre. He would save pieces of wood and scrap metal and, oh, you never know, you might need it one day and let's save it for Joe and let's, so it's really was just kind of this combination of where my parents had come from. And of course, they grew up during the war and the depression and everything else. So scarcity was a huge factor. And, so consequently, people didn't have very much stuff that
Right.
they had to try and corral and keep organized.
Yeah, amazing. I love how it was a little bit different from both sides though. I love people's journeys and backgrounds. Like that's
Yeah, me
so
too.
fabulous. So it sounds like it started off really well, you saw a need within the people within your team, but then I
Yeah.
love that they started to recognize that they had other areas that they needed help with. And it's one of those things that years ago you would think, "Oh, I could use help with this," but who do you go to?
Mhm.
So I love that now they know getting it
Now they
together.
know. Yes.
So you were talking a lot about organization. What would you say is the difference between the clutter and the organization? I mean, I know the definition of those two words, but when do you see people that are like they're both like it's just a mixture of all the clutter and disorganized, or can people be more to the one or more to the other?
I think they're one of the same. If your space is cluttered, which is an untidy collection of things, then that's going to make you feel very disorganized. Your brain might be feeling disorganized, your mind, your life. And consequently, your brain can feel very cluttered if it's got too much in it. So they're really very similar.
Mm.
And a person can't have loads of clutter around them and be organized.
Mhm.
Some people say, oh, I can find, I've got piles and
Yeah.
piles of paper here, but I can find exactly what I'm looking for. Well, if you can find what you're looking for in 20 seconds or less, then that system is working for you to have the piles all over the place. But I would say, can you find it in 20 seconds or less? Probably not. And if there was a windstorm or a flood that came through your place, then how would that system work for you?
Yeah.
Probably not very well.
Yeah. I love that you said that because I think we all know at least that one person that does that. It's like
Yeah,
they call it like organized chaos. You're like, I'm not so sure you're selling that.
yeah, yeah. I'm not so sure either. I'd like to be inside their brain for, half a minute and see how that's running.
Have you seen like within your clients how being disorganized impacts people's health? Because that's one thing I really love. Health is a big topic on this podcast, and I believe the two are definitely connected. But have you seen that personally, like how their health is impacted?
Oh, big time, big time. There is such a huge correlation between the head, the
Mm,
heart, and the hips.
oh,
And
tell us about
so if your head is full of clutter because your life is full of clutter, then your heart feels heavy, you're not able to exercise,
it. Mhm.
you don't get your heart working properly, you can't get to the gym on time, you can't get out for a bike ride, whatever the case might be, and then you consequently probably eating improperly, and then it shows up on the hips. And so my goal is when I'm working with my clients is, okay, let's see how streamlined is your kitchen, and let's get your kitchen
Ah,
super streamlined. Let's get it so that you can be making healthy choices, making healthy dinners and lunches and things for the kids. And it also saves money too, Rosa, because so few people that they'll just say, well, I just order in because it's easier,
mm,
or
yeah.
I don't have the time to cook, or I can't, I can't figure out the grocery list. And so it's all about keeping things very simple and streamlined, and not having so much clutter in your life and so much variety. People think that they have to make something grandiose every single night. That's not the case. If you want to be healthy, you want to actually keep your ingredient list simple and short and sweet.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I love that. I feel like I have about 10 questions for you out of that, because there's so many areas to go with that. And I absolutely agree with all of that. I've seen it within my own clients, the whole, I don't have time to meal prep and I don't have time to, and I believe it's a big part of it is exactly what you're saying. It's coming down to the organization, but it is hard if we are used to having so many things, right? So many appliances, so many choices, we need some gadget for everything in the kitchen. And it's like,
Yeah.
really, we could just simplify so that when we go into that drawer, we're not grabbing a million things.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. The melon baller is the big one for me. I just think just chop your melon in squares. Like, does it need to be in a little round ball? Whoever does that anyway? Nobody. Maybe the odd Martha
Absolutely.
Stewart out there, but no.
I
And
know.
when you say about time too, Rose, I just think we all have the exact same number of hours in a day. And so it's not a priority then. If you're saying you don't have time, then there's other things that are taking precedence. And so if your health is one of your top values, which it is for me, then it's going to become a high priority. So even, tonight when we're finished our podcast, I do all my food prep for tomorrow because I don't want to do it in the morning. And so it gets done tonight. And it takes no time at all. It really doesn't. People say, "Oh, it takes so long." No, it doesn't. Gosh, you listen to another podcast or put on some jazzy music, and before you know it, 15 minutes and you're done. Your meals are ready for the next day.
Yeah, I love that. That was actually one of the questions I want to ask you, was that women do often say, "Oh, it's so hard to find the time to dedicate to my health." And so how you're talking a little bit about how they can overcome that time piece. I love how you said, like, listen to a podcast, make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this whole like, oh, it's meal prep time. Are there
Right.
any?
Yeah. And, a lot of times I might visit with a friend. So I've got her on speakerphone and, we might be chatting or listening to good music. But, it comes down to it, when you know your top 5 core values, then you're going to make the time to maximize your top 5 core values. But until you know those, then you're going to say, "Oh, I don't have time."
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the core values without going into too much detail, because we don't have the whole time and there's lots of things we want to talk about, but I think it's so important for people to know so they can reach out to you to learn even more about this, because I agree, when you know those values, it shifts everything in the way you approach what you're going to do.
Oh, totally. So, under my company, I do hands-on organizing. So I actually get rid of people's stuff for them and help them get and stay organized. But I also do over the phone coaching. And I do speaking seminars and workshops. So the coaching component is where we get down to the values, because there's a whole exercise around that. And we don't have time for that
I would
tonight.
assume so. Yeah.
But that's something that they can reach out and
I assume that health would be one of those core values.
Well, for me, it is. And probably for most of your listeners, it is. And I would like to think that it's for everybody that is their core value, because then they're a healthier person in society. They're not putting a strain on the medical system. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that as everybody's one of their top 5 core values. But,
you're right. It's not for absolutely everyone. It's true. Sometimes we get in this space where everyone around us has similar core values.
Yeah,
but you're right. It definitely isn't for everyone. Or we see people's lives changing when something shifts, and then it becomes a top. They always say, right, health becomes a top priority when you don't have it. Can we talk a little bit about, you touched a bit about it on your website, about decision fatigue? And actually, I like that word, actually feels very physical to me. I feel like I'm asked questions all day long. talk to us a little bit about that decision fatigue, how it happens, the signs to look for, because it sounds like there's very physical signs behind that feeling.
Yeah, there is. And, we wake up in the morning with only so many decision neurons in our brain. And if we're wasting those on what are we going to wear, what are we going to eat, where's the kids' homework, all the things that could be taken care of prior to the morning. And then you've got those decision neurons to be free to be used for important decisions. Things like, where am I going to go on vacation?
Right.
Or,
The fun
what
stuff.
relationship do I need to be focusing in on? And how can I become a better person? Or how can I help my child, in this area or that area? So, we waste a lot of these decision neurons with, the main one is, what am I going to wear, standing in front of the cupboard? So if that's not organized and you don't have that planned out in advance, and you're wasting them, on your phone, doing things on your phone that are probably not a priority. And also with, what are you going to eat? So lots of decisions that people make. We make a lot of decisions consciously and self-consciously or subconsciously. And so let's mitigate some of those and minimize them so that our brains are freer and we can stay more present and not be so distracted.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. All those things that you listed are things that can really make a person feel frazzled. That whole getting ready in the morning and thinking that this outfit was clean and it's not, and you got to get that one or whatever it is. I remember going through that when I was like a 9-to-5-er. It's hard. It just sets off the tone for your day as well. And then you're rushing into the kitchen to maybe grab something to eat. And now you're in a rush because you've lost time already. And amazing. Yeah. I love the idea of wasting those neurons. It's like, okay, how can I kind of preserve them? You're right. So that I can use them for those really life enhancing decisions.
Sure. And you may be needing to make decisions about where are you going to be living, or, are you going to be staying in your relationship, or is there a big decision at work that you need to make, a big task at work that you need to make a decision on? You might be caregiving for an elderly parent and having to make decisions on some of their healthcare needs or future living needs. So there's, a lot of other really important decisions that we have to make in a day, aside from, having to worry about, does this top still fit me?
Right.
Is this bottom clean? It's crazy making in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. And this way, if you're not making all those decisions, you have more time. And like you said, you feel more present, like you have the capacity to really, because you want to dedicate a good amount of time to making those bigger decisions rather than trying to squeeze those in too and making really, I guess that's when we make decisions that sometimes aren't the best. We make them impulsively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So someone wants to get, or what about this? Someone wants to get organized. They have all the best intention. They do it. I know to be honest, I live very minimalistically just so that I don't have to be overly organized. So I just don't have a lot of stuff. I've traveled for many years and moved many times. So I've kind of created my life around that. But I also know when I want to procrastinate, like mine's my desk. Like my desk right now, I mean, I'm so glad the Zoom camera is a little bit higher so you don't see it, but it's the one area of my house that it's not organized, and I will find myself organizing but kind of as a form to procrastinate rather than in making it a long-term solution. So how do you go from using it or procrastinating or having even good intentions, but then how do you go from there to long term? Or is that possible? Is it like a straight line to get there?
Well, anything's possible. But what I encourage my clients to do is what I call the 15 minutes to freedom. And I have lots of tips on the 15 minutes to freedom, where at the end of your work day, whether you're self-employed or in an office job, take the last 15 minutes of your day and tidy up your desk and prepare it for the next day, so that it's steps up to greet you when you get into work or into your office.
Yeah.
And if you're procrastinating about doing a task, then that's time to ask yourself, is this task important? Am I the one that can only do it, or can somebody else do it? Can I delegate it? So it's, sometimes we think things are really important, and so, or maybe we're not excited about doing something, so then we start procrastinating. So that's when we have to ask ourselves again, is it with our core value? Is this something, why am I procrastinating to do this? Is it maybe against my core values, and I really just don't like doing it? Okay, for an example, I am not a bookkeeper, and I would not do the spreadsheet that needs to go to my accountant because I just don't know how to do it. And I think, oh, okay, well, I'm not an expert, so I could make a big mistake, and that could cost me with having to pay too much income tax or being audited. So I'm going to pay somebody to do the spreadsheet that knows what they're doing, and that frees me up. That gives me time to then go for a bike ride, or to help another client, or see a friend, or whatever it is that I want to do. So I think a lot of it, Rose, is learning the art of delegation. And why is it that you are procrastinating on a task?
Yeah.
And then doing that 15 minutes to freedom.
Yeah. You see, that's exactly why I feel, if this is an area, like you said, that people really want to improve in their life, that it's so worth it and so valuable to get a coach like yourself, because you can tell us what to do. Like, okay, in your kitchen, you're going to organize it this way, this way, this way. You're going to have these tools. You're going to eliminate these. You're going to do that. But then once that's done, it's the mindset side of it. It's the coaching is what really takes something from being a short-term fix, to like a longer term solution. And that's where I really feel like a lot of value
Well, it's
is where
about
you're providing it.
creating, because it's about creating really good habits.
Yes.
And, we as humans take the path of least resistance.
Yes.
And this way, this is about creating really healthy patterns and healthy habits, and knowing why are you stumped. I was working with someone today, and, they haven't dealt with their recycling for so long. And so I said, well, today's the day, today's the day that we're going to get all this recycling out of here, and you're going to take it to the recycling area while I'm here. And, so it was all outside, and I wasn't there. I was doing something else in the house. And all of a sudden I hear this, squeal, and my client comes running up, and he says, there's rats in the recycling.
I would die.
I know. Like, thank goodness it's you that's dealing with the recycling and not me. So I said, okay. So this is the cost of clutter. This is one of the costs of clutter. And so I doubt that this client would procrastinate in the future when it comes to recycling.
Right.
Because that was, a big wake up and a hard lesson to learn.
Rowena, how did they get in there? Was that part of their...
this was all outside, thank goodness.
No, and it's a problem down there too. But that's a real consequence for sure.
Yeah.
And also, like, as you're painting that image of him doing that, I would think that every time you came home and you see that there's like a heaviness to that. Like it's like, oh, there it is again. And there it is again. And it's just like a little niggle, but those little niggles really start to add up.
Well, you go into a whole shame spiral as well, about
Wow.
I'm a lousy person at keeping my house clean. And, if my mother could see me, she'd probably,
Oh,
tell me I was a bad person. And I am a bad person. I can't keep, I'm
oh,
lousy at that. Like, so the whole
yeah.
self-talk and the clutter that goes into the mind is so detrimental and just robs
Right.
you of precious time. That's wasted time that you're never going to get back when you do
Right.
all that negative self-talk and go into a shame spiral.
Yeah. Thank you for touching on that. I don't know that I would have put that together, but that makes a lot of sense. And our self-talk, I think it's human nature to be a little bit negative. Like anyone that's positive or good at kind of bringing themselves out of those spirals, you have to work at it.
Mhm.
So I think if someone doesn't have those skills, it's so easy to go into like a dark place over recycling. Like,
Yeah. Yes. And then, maybe sit on the couch and go, well, okay,
mm,
I'm a lousy housekeeper, so I may as well just sit on the couch and watch TV and eat potato chips and feel,
right.
completely worse.
Which comes back to that health. And,
Yeah.
as you're mentioning this, I'm thinking, you're probably, if you're someone that has a few of those things, like you've got the recycling, and then maybe, you're never getting the meal prep done, and you're always rushing, or the laundry is not done, whatever it is, that there's probably a low level stress that is always there,
It's a high
which
level. It's not low.
uh,
It's high.
low is
Yeah.
in chronic, like always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like having a nagging toothache,
Mm,
or it's like having a pebble in your shoe. That's what I always say.
right.
It's if you got a pebble in your shoe,
Mhm.
it's irritating.
Yeah.
And until you get it out and deal with it, it's going to keep irritating you. And how often do people just keep walking around in their running shoes or whatever and go, oh yeah, I got to get
Yeah.
that out of my shoe. Oh, until finally they say, okay, stop. I'm taking my shoe off and getting the pebble out. But
Yes.
the stuff that I deal with is the pebble in the shoe, which sometimes can turn into the rock or the boulder.
Right.
So it's, if it's not dealt with, as
Yeah.
in the recycling was not a pebble, it became
Yes.
a boulder.
That's
And
right.
now the rubbers met the road and we are getting this done now.
Yeah. Wow, this is such like an aha moment for me right now. I love it when this happens. We're always learning, but just I feel, as a health coach, and I was a personal trainer for many years, we focus a lot on nutrition, we focus a lot on movement, and now we're getting savvy. Like now we're also focusing on those lifestyle factors, on sleep, on getting sunlight, on all of that kind of stuff. We're getting better at that. I would say the bigger picture. But now I want to add this too to it, because how many people maybe think that they're dealing with one thing, but actually it's the clutter, it's the disorganization, and not what they actually maybe think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sure. All you have to do is just, take a look at their kitchen counter
Yeah.
or open up the pantry
Yeah.
and just see, how everything is situated in there and whether or not it's inviting. This is the
Mm,
thing. If it's not inviting, then we're less likely to be excited about opening the cupboards and
right.
going into the space.
Right. Amazing. Oh, okay. This has been so good. I'm like thinking out loud because I have these questions I was going to ask you, and I'm just having these like wonderful moments of how valuable this would be for women listening, because I really, sometimes we're like, our hormones are off, or we're not sleeping at night and we can't figure out why, or the cravings are hitting because we're always in this state of stress. And yet if we can
Mhm.
clear up and organize our environment, a lot of that stress is going to go away. We're going to be able to think clearer, start to be able to make those better choices. And it's just like this beautiful compound effect. So I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I want to talk about something that's a little bit now off, because you touched on it and I actually had it written down, because I think current, um, you know, current, I was going to say Canada, but I think this is kind of global right now, or in many countries where we're dealing with money and inflation and people, it's a real thing. People are getting stressed, but you have this thing on your website that it says, Rowena finds money. Do you want to tell us about that? Because you did talk a little bit about that as well.
I always find money for my clients. So today when I went into this space, and within about, half an hour, I had found an American $1 bill. And I said to my client, oh, I always find money. So here you go. And he's like, oh, well, I don't need that. Oh, wait a minute. I do. I'm going to the States. I guess I may as well put that in my pocket. And then later on in the day, I found a quarter. So today was only $1.25 so far. But, there will be money other places. I was at a place last week and there was a big, huge bin, massive bin of pennies. And we don't have pennies any longer in Canada. Yeah. So that means that pennies can be now used for other things. And there's this woman that I know that makes jewelry out of pennies. And so I was able to give her this big, huge box of pennies. Oh, wow. She was so excited because my client didn't want it. My client said, oh gosh, I don't want those pennies. Get those. Yeah. And then they don't
know what to do with them. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And then with the penny client, I found this box. It was a steel box, and I opened it up, and inside was a mahjong set, which is a game, a Chinese game.
Yeah.
And inside the game was a little envelope that was filled with money. So they had been using that money to, when they were playing the game, probably to bet, but it was an old $5 bill, $2 bill, $1, money that we don't even have anymore.
Yeah.
So I gave her that. But I also find money because I sell things for my clients. So the house with the mahjong set, I'm selling all the furniture and, anything else that basically that's sellable. And so she's been getting all kinds of money from the sale of things.
Amazing. That actually sounds like fun too.
Super fun. Yeah, it's super fun. I always say I'm like Monty Hall on Let's Make a Deal. If somebody comes in and they're like, oh, can I give you $40? I know you said you wanted $50. And I go, yeah, okay, here you go.
I love 40. That. That's so fantastic. And then you had touched on, you were saying about if you're organized with your food, then you're not ordering out to eat as well. So that's like ways of saving money, not necessarily finding it, but you're saving money in those ways as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because if you, if you don't know where your can opener is, I worked on a house, they had 12 can openers in the kitchen.
Oh my goodness.
I said, what's going on here? She says, well, every time my husband goes to open a can, if he can't find the can opener, he runs to the store and buys the can opener. I'm like, wow. Oh my gosh, okay, how much is invested here in can openers?
That's so random.
It's so random. They had 12 of them. And, if your clothes aren't put away properly and cleaned properly, then you think, oh, okay, well, I don't have any clothes. I better go buy some clothes, or, I better go buy some food prep rather than, the food that I've got in here, because your brain just isn't thinking clearly, and it's costing a lot of money. Clutter costs a lot of, it costs a lot. It costs money. It costs relationships. It costs your health. It can cost a lot of things that people don't realize. So I would say, think about, what is the cost of clutter? What is the cost of clutter?
I love that question. What is the cost of clutter? Because you're right. It's, I don't know if you've ever read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's one of my favorite books. And the story, there's a little story in there where there's these two men, and they've just changed little habits. And one was he started to make baking for his family. And so it meant he started eating a little bit more sugar. And then 5 years down the road, he's put on all this weight. And the other one, I think, took up walking like a mile a day or something. It wasn't a lot. I can't remember it exactly, but basically over time he got fitter and his family got happier. And the other one actually ended up like his relationship suffered and he ended up getting divorced. And it was like, and it all started from like this like small thing, and we don't often take it back. And I think that's the lesson that I'm getting from you for people that are really struggling in this area, is that sometimes we don't realize what we think maybe is just getting organized. It's not. It's actually pretty impactful long-term wise.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
incredible.
For sure. People always say to me that they feel like a weight's been lifted off of them.
Yeah.
Once they've been working with me.
Yeah. Can you share with us just like one or two success stories that you've had that have really spoken to you? Maybe their health improved, or mindset, or new job, or something that came out of making these shifts.
Yeah, gosh, I've had the pleasure of working with so many different types of people.
Probably hard.
And, I worked with this fellow. I'm going to say he was in his 40s,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife had passed away, and he, the house was just, his wife was a collector, which is also known for being as a hoarder, because it was just too much stuff in too small of a space. And so I worked with him, and his daughter was, of course, very distraught. Her mom passing away. The daughter was young. The mom was young. So we worked on their place, and I got their place, it's like an onion. So you're peeling back layers. So the first couple of times that I worked with him, he only got rid of a little bit. And then as time went on, he got rid of more and more. Mm-hmm. And then he was going to do a renovation. So we got him set up, and we got the renovation happening. And then I saw him after the renovation, and he was ready to only put away things that really made his heart sing, and to just really downsize. And in the process of doing this, he had met someone else, and he was getting married, and his daughter was it was her turn to go off to university. She'd grown up. And then, they decided to sell the place that they had renovated, so that he and his new wife could move into a place on their own that nobody else had lived in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a neat story, because it really, for a guy to transform that much after his wife's passed, I thought was really enlightening, and he did a wonderful job of it. And his daughter came out of her shell, and that was a great story. It was nice to see.
That's incredible, because you can see how if he hadn't reached out to make a change like this, that you could very well be stuck, or at least be there in that situation for a lot longer than you need to be.
Well, yes. And, the thing is that clutter becomes invisible to those around it. So they don't really see it. They go, oh yeah, I got a pile over there. Oh, well, there's a pile over there. And so they don't really see it the same way that when I go in, I can see the space and go, oh, okay, well, if you move the desk over here and put the dresser here, and that, you'd have so much more room.
Right.
And it would open it up.
Mm-hmm.
And or let's put, like today with this fellow, he was showing me his kid's room, and there was a dresser sort of random right in the middle. Well, it was right in front of the closet, so you couldn't even get into the closet.
Interesting.
Okay, but nothing was in the closet, and nothing was in the dressers.
Right.
But I said, the dresser needs to go in the closet. This will make this room bigger, and your kids are small enough that the dresser can go in the closet, and there's still room above to hang things.
Yeah.
And let's open up this space, and
huge difference.
It just like that in just a few moments. It's changed.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Oh my goodness, I could talk to you a lot about this. Actually, I wish that I was closer so that I can come and do some coaching with you. Well, I know you do coaching online, don't you?
It's all done over the phone. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. Let's talk about, I've got two questions that I always ask everyone at the end, but before I get into that, can you share with us like how people can get in touch with you? I'll put this all in the show notes as well, but also talk about the free ebook that you have for people to help them just get started and get to kind of know the process. That would be so amazing.
Yeah, sure, Rosa. Yeah, my website is gettingittogether.ca. And I do have a free ebook on the top 10 tips to getting and staying organized. So you can download that. And then you would also have access to my blog. And that's all kinds of tips and tricks. And
I love your blog.
I was on social media and YouTube and, all those things, which you can connect to those through the website.
Incredible.
And I also, for your listeners, Rosa, I will offer them a free 15-minute discovery session. So what that means is that they can be in touch with me, and then we will have a phone conversation just to discuss, the pebble that's in their shoe or the thing that's really bothering them the most. And I can give them a tip or two, and they can see if it's something that they want to move forward with. Certainly no pressure. It's just a gift of, hey, let's just see if this works and if it's a match. And
that's amazing. Thank you. That's actually very generous. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And I highly recommend anyone to do that. Sometimes, you just don't know what you don't know. So if you feel that niggle and that like excitement or anything in this conversation where you're like, oh, that's me, like that, like use the 15 minutes. Like you said, there's no pressure, but like how amazing to connect on that and see if there's more to explore.
Yeah, because the thing is that your listeners are not alone.
Right. And clutter can make you feel alone, actually.
Yeah, it can. You think you're the only one that doesn't get your photos done, or you're the only one that doesn't make pumpkin pie from scratch, or the only one. No, you're not alone.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, these are the two questions I always love to ask people. The first one is, what is something you've heard or even read that changed everything for you? If you had one of those moments where you read something and it maybe shifted things.
Oh, well, I read the book Simple Abundance.
Oh,
that came out years ago. Simple Abundance. Do you know I've got it right here in my office. Simple Abundance, a day book of comfort and joy by Sarah Van Brethnick. And this is a book that was recommended years and years ago. And the first time that I read it was 1998. And I read it every year since. It's just one page a day. And there's lots of things in here that you wouldn't do because they're just over the top. As far as, making your own Halloween whatevers. But there's also lots of things in here that just really shifted for me and changed my life. So this book was a pivotal moment for sure.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's a great read. And like I say, it's just one page a day. And then you can or can't do the activities in there if you want to.
Amazing. That's
up to you. And the saying, my favorite saying is, live simply so others may simply live. Oh. And that just shifts so much for me because, 50% of the world's population lives on less than $1 a day, which is staggering when you say it out loud that, we have, what have we got? 9 billion people in the world, right. And 50% of them live on less than $1 a day. And of those 50% of them are women, and they're supporting their families.
Wow.
So if we live simply so that others may simply live and help others and give to others, that makes my heart sing.
Oh, I love that heart message. That's so beautiful. Thank you. That's beautiful. Last one. What does living by design mean to you?
Living by design. So I've designed my lifestyle. People always talk about this work-life balance thing. Yeah. That comes and goes in spurts for people, but being self-employed, you do get to design your own lifestyle. And so for me, it's very important. Again, back to the values. So health being one of my top core values. So I design my life around when am I going to do something that's health related, whether it's an activity or, traveling where I'm going to go skiing or hiking or something like that. And then, of course, put work in there, but it's the health portion first. And there's always going to be room for work. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I spend all day, every day, just riding my bike.
Yeah.
You got to have, got to have the priorities. I'm a solopreneur. But living by design means that you really get to decide, how do you want to spend your day, and how do you want to spend your thoughts, and where do you want your thoughts to go? Because really, that's the only thing we have control over, ultimately, is our own thoughts and our own actions.
I love that. And when you organize your life so that you are living simply, you have the time to actually think about these things that are important, so that you can design the life that you love, because I truly believe that everyone deserves to have that. That's so beautiful.
They do. And so, it's just a matter of looking at time busters and getting rid of those, and, really just focusing in on, friends are really important. I make a lot of time to see friends and connect with friends.
Oh, it's so important.
Yeah,
thank
so
you,
important.
Rowena. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I cannot wait for everyone to listen to this. I think it's just going to be so much value. And I know that there's going to be people that listening to this, that they will have heard something that will definitely change everything. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Happy to help.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I know time is precious, and I'm grateful you shared yours with me. It would mean the world to me if you felt an impact, a moment of inspiration, or learned something new, if you would share it with those you care about and leave me a review on iTunes. I'd love to know what spoke to you or what you'd like to hear more of. Your sharing and leaving a review would help so much on this journey to making an impact on as many people as possible. It's worth it. I know from experience, there are moments when something we hear has the possibility of changing everything.